Welcome. I am Crime Queen, and if you are joining us for the first time, it's the channel where we have fun with words and numbers, numerology to be precise. This is my passion. It is my almost like my savior because I have discovered so much about myself through numerology. So if you're new to this channel, this is what we do here, numerology with reference to the King James Bible. Why the King James Bible? Well, it is the mathematical Bible. It is the Bible that has all those codes in it. It has all these numbers in it. I don't know, there may be other Bibles that have even more constructs in it, but as far as I know, that's the Bible that kind of shaped me into who I am today, because that is the Bible or the mathematical constructs that were used to sort of perhaps build the churches that created a certain kind of energy that would facilitate the songs and hymns and prayers, and how they would be ritualistically conducted. That's the Bible, of course, that has all the measurements, or they have the world has been constructed through certain measurements of certain buildings and cubit sizes and inches and yards. I think that's the Bible that Britain really had is been structured on, and not just Britain, of course. There is a common thread in that mathematical construct around the world somehow, although it is so beautiful that it has different layers of constructs in it. So it's like a cake. You probably don't like certain flavors of like vanilla, or it may have chocolate, or it's that multi-layer and multi-flavored cake basically. Now of course, sometimes, like, I have had certain flavors that I think, oh, I don't like this anymore, this does not serve me well anymore, but then I remember somehow, member, that means we are a member of that construct. So I remember that that cake had different flavors, and I had made a choice that to choose the vanilla, for instance, which I have become tired of. In essence, this is just an example. And then I remember that they had chocolate flavor as well. It's like you go to the sweetie shop and you say, oh, you make so many choices, and you think, oh, which one shall I have? And then you decide, okay, I'm gonna have chocolate. And then of course you got tired of chocolate, and then you, of course, but the ritualistic or flavor or satisfaction that that has been embedded beckons your call. It beckons your action to go back for, oh, I remember there was vanilla, and I remember there was strawberry, and I remember there was raspberry, so let me go and try those other flavors. That's where I'm at, trying the other flavor of the Bible. Of course, I had tried different flavors and different ways, but it's like looking at the other side of the coin. So this is what I am wanting to say in this presentation, that particularly, I think I will just have this as an intro really for Crime Queen, particularly for people who are new to what I am teaching on this channel. It's like I am unpacking. It is like Christ, who had been angry when he went into the synagogue and they were bantering prices, or they had used it as a marketplace in the synagogue. This is but again, this is a parable. But he had tipped the table over. And of course, this is said, when a parable is said, it's got to be said so close to home that you can identify with it. So by tipping the table over, of course, if we are talking about food, fruits, money, everything that was being exchanged on the table was now on the floor, all mixed together. And people, while they pick them up, would have to have the consciousness of what they are picking up or what they are gathering. It is at that time, in some cases, that some things get damaged and they are no longer picked up as something valuable. They are being chucked into the bin, or they are being seen as I say, damaged, and that means that the owner of that item feels a sense of loss, feels a sense of which perhaps may turn out to be something good. Well, not often it is something good, but they would have an opportunity to grieve over that thing that they could no longer possess. This is one of the many parables or teachings in the Bible that is giving us the opportunity to be bold enough. Bold, B-O-L-D. So it is like saying we need the O-L-D. We are looking at the O-L-D in a balanced way. What I have found out, that every word, the first letter gives you the nature of what it is that the other letters consist of. So bold in this case is like a capital B. You can see that as two breasts. It's like the scale. The breast, of course, of anything is like the scale of something. It's balance. It represents that. So now we are being asked, or we are being called to weigh the old and the new, which is really one and the same. Bring the two together and look at what it is we are doing, thinking, and being. This is what the Crime Queen's channel is about. Bringing what we have learned into sight, our best side, and seeing what we need to let go of. And of course, another very vital thing that happens, like in the example of turning the table over, it gives you the opportunity to see the other side of the coin, to handle. When we are picking up something, at that stage, we are paying more attention to it. Of course, the word attention has in it tension. So we could see that our emotions are at play in that kind of scenario. So there is a lot going on to such a story that really is very applicable for our state of being right now and where we want to be. So it gives us the opportunity to see where we are at, where we have been, that we've that bold, the old, and to do things in a new way. So it is with that mindset that I am asking, when you do watch the Crime Queen videos, that you come with a sort of balance. Turn it over. Don't be scared to turn it over. Don't be scared to look at the new. Don't be scared to if I may say, let's leave out a don't in this sense. Do, but of course in don't has do. D-O. Do is balance, because that equals D is 4 and O is 6. So that is 46, which coincides. This is why language is very, is a real gift. So do is like the D, which is D. This is representing D, and this is representing O. So do here is in our third section here, which is the 369. So when we approach something with that perspective, of the 369 with that word do, we are looking at something on a balance scale. So perhaps it is a way of saying, for instance, I do want to see the truth in this presentation, or I do want to see how balanced this is. I do want to see how I can make use of that information. I do want to see what the lesson or the teaching or the learning is in this presentation for me. So it's, and of course use your language, because Mother Eve has her flair of language that works in all of us succinctly according to who we are and our purpose. So of course how I'm delivering, how I am speaking is how Mother Eve is operating through me. May not necessarily be in the same way that it does for you, but we remember, this is a member, going back to how ritualistic or reinforcing that an act that we have with Mother Eve. So we can always reapproach Mother Eve and say, well, how can I approach this? How can I look at this? Which way am I supposed to turn this? Or that. Okay. So I'll just give you a little exercise on this again, because I keep going with this sacrifice template, and just to reacquaint ourselves with this sacrifice template. I am not coming with anything new. It's just the way it is being presented that probably looks new, because we say it looks new is that it's where our consciousness, our level of consciousness have come to that makes it new. And so this is Mother Eve. This is a perspective of Mother Eve. This a depiction of Mother Eve is that she is the said God. She is the God of language. She's the God of speech. She is the God of spirit. She is the God of light. She is the God who said, this is how she has the title of the said God. So when it is said in Genesis of chapter 1 verse 3, and God said, we are talking about Mother Eve. We are also talking about the serpent in Genesis of chapter 2 or 3, when it was said that the serpent said to Eve, have God told you that if you eat of the fruit you shall surely die? Because she is the serpent who is taking on different roles like a mother would a child, to say, okay, now I am telling you the story, like I remember telling my son, relating the stories, and I would be acting out the different parts of that story just to get him to get the full picture of the story. That's what Genesis is about. It has different characters. It has it consists of 14 gods, but all these 14 gods of course encompass Mother Eve. So Mother Eve is, it is said, we read this as well, she was the wisest of all creatures. So she is that snake or serpent that could actually turn into a circle. She is an S. She is the 5, which is masculine and feminine. She is the number 8 that sets a sort of complete pattern of perfection as infinite wholeness. She is that when she unravels, she births a new nature or a new aspect of herself. She is 1 when she is being rigid and stern and is like making her presence felt like the rod of correction. She is 2 when she is really in harmony with us and is really saying, I am there with you. Wherever you go, I am there with you. There is harmony, fellowship, marriage, togetherness, bonding. She is 2. She is free when she is like letting you know that there are 2 aspects of your W, because 3 is W, it is M, it is mother, it is E for Eve as well. It is all those aspects that can form a perfect 8-petal flower, like in here. She is 4, she is your north, she is your south, she's your east, and she's your west. When it is said that Christ had crucified on the cross to save mankind, that is where that savior or that crystal or that serum that rises up into the that which we call the Kundalini activation, that is Mother Eve, that is the serpent, is taking her rise on the throne on your makeup. She is spirit. When it is said that, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the deep, it was the deep that knew that it had life in it, as an A in the middle of the word heart. In the middle of the word heart, here, H-E-A-R-T, there in the A, let's do it like this, that would see, that you could see that there is the A, which tell you she is very creative. She is the pyramid. She is the artistic element that is in the core of the heart. She is also in the core of the brain. There is also an A in the brain, B-R-A-I-N. So in the middle of the 5-letter word, because she is the number 5 as well, as much as she is the number 7 in the earth. So in the earth and heart are synonymous. So we see that earth and heart also have the word art, as I say. Going back to brain, we could see that she is the A, meaning in the word, I think the word pyramid as well. Pyramid. She is also in the middle of the pyramid. So the A is right here. It is the middle letter. So this is Mother Eve, who is the number 1, and or the number 1 goddess, the number 1 divine feminine. She is the S hair, which has 2 aspects to itself, where we could say C, because when we divide equally the S, we have 2 U's, which is that W. So she is displaying 2 aspects of herself right there in that S, even like the 2, like 1 point going forward and 1 point going backward, 1 curve here and 1 backward as well, up as well and down. So this is Mother Eve displaying a lot of her characteristics in that serpent that we were told in the Garden of Eden was the wisest of all creatures. This is also that we are seen as creatures. From the word creatures, of course, is from the word we see create, creation. It's all interlinked. And so there is much more to all of this, but I'm going to serve this as a as I say, an introduction. So introduction to people who are new to this channel. There is Mother Eve, we were told, who ate of the fruit of good and evil, or the fruit of knowledge. Now we know how this story goes, and she has been seen as the cause of all sin. The word sin, again, as I explained with the S, is really showing the S is the serpent, which is Mother Eve, is very present in the beginning, and so here, sin, let's take up the brain. The first word of the Bible is in, right here. It also denotes 95. This is how it denotes 95. I is 9, from the word sacrifice. This is numerology. I is 9 and N here is 5. So IN. This is why Mother Eve is now asking us to count backward. But I want to keep this simple for now. Let's see how we are going with this. So how we were taught about sin is that was something that we were meant to feel guilty about. But numerology is teaching us another side to this story. Numerology is offering us the tool to understand the other aspect of who we are. There are two sides of who we are in this sense. We could see that we have two sides of our brain, for instance. And I believe it's also said that the brain has 4 parts to it as well, which would also denote that in that aspect it's telling us about north, south, east, west. When we look at our image, we see we are also north, south, east, west. So you can do this exercise, stand in front of the mirror, look at your head, or stretch your arms apart, and your 2 feet planted on the ground would be on your floor, would be your north, south, east, and west. That's what it's about. So, and of course we have got, so if you turn to the east, then you are doing the same thing. You have your image there in that north, south, east, and west. In essence, there would be 8 sides to you, to who you are, because there is that double aspect of who you are being in any given moment. Your W. Here's the letter W. W really is saying that there are 2 of us at any given moment, which means we are either with our left brain or right brain, or we are making decisions from our brain or heart. There are those different things that we are always faced with too. Okay. And we see that the word, the letters, of course, as I say, it coincides with beginning and end. Now, when we add these 2 letters together, the numerical value, it gives us 14. When we add 1 plus 4 together, that gives us 5. So 5 is really Mother Eve. Now, just to show you how Mother Eve comes to 5 as well, here, when we do the numerical value for EVE, this is 5, 4, 5. Add these together. 5 plus 5 is 10 plus 4 is 14. Again, we add 1 plus 4 together. That gives us 5. Now, that it also means that we are of 14, as I think I have mentioned that I have seen that we are of 14 gods. So I may not have of 14 gods. In Genesis of chapter 1, 9 gods, and in Genesis of chapter 2, 5 gods. 5 plus 9, as we have done, is 14. Again, we add this together because we encompass these 14 gods. We are construct of these 14 gods. Of course, this is why we could see that why we have the chatter going in our minds. Now, another thing that I feel is important to mention, I was going to say that Christ, of course, also equals Christ. So for people who have this belief about Christ, of course, is the Savior who come to save us, it makes perfect sense as well. So 3, 8, 9, 9, 1, 2. When we add this together, I count like this. I go back and forth. So this is 18 and this would be 20. And this would be 11. So it's 31 and 1 is 32. Now 32. It makes perfect sense to see Christ as 32 when we add 3 plus 2 is 5. Now 3 plus 2 as well also is the word high. It coincides with the word high. Of course, low is also 5, GH, but we will see why. High and Y, okay. So here we count this, and we can see high has in it 8 on the two ends, which is in itself saying that being on high, it's like a construct of two gods. It's the makeup of two gods. It's like you have mastered the God below, and you are now with the God above, that you are balanced on with two gods. Now remember, I say there are always two aspects to ourselves. Now the high and the two aspects of the gods I'm talking about would also be, it would be like a thread, or like two ends of a scale. There are always two ends here, so one is leaning on the other. So that's the construct of our world. So we have 8 here and 8 here. Now of course I'm saying 8, meaning that also consists of it coincides with the story of Adam and Eve, where Eve ate of the fruit. So it also equals 8. So we can see that may also coincide with Adam and Eve right here. In the middle, we would have the IG. IG, of course, would be 16, which is saying 1 plus 6 is 7. It's like telling you that we are of 7 in that sense, because you are high. As I mentioned, there are 14 gods. So here we are always seeing like one side of ourselves at any given moment. So the low God in this sense would be forming the L, which would make the whole. So if you are able, whenever we are able to make a differentiation, or we are able to make a reference of being high, that means that we are not conscious of when we are being low. Hence, that's why we are seeing that 7 is like, 7 is like having this arrogant, we say arrogant, but it has that flair about it. It's not seen below in that sense, unless it's ready to be chopped, to chop something. Hence the axe is always ready to chop the wood. So basically the wood is low, the wood is down, and the axe, axe, which is 7, has the shape of 7, is chopping something down. And then of course, when it is high, it gets low. It becomes, you put it on the ground, it is low. Okay. So this is just really an intro, as I say, to how to understand the numbers, and really not just the numbers, but to understand the flavor of the videos on this channel. It's really getting to look at things, or how we have made sense or not make sense of our world, so we can begin to appreciate the different dimensions and constructs of the world that have shaped us. And then to also remember from the scriptures, where we have also learned that I have given you, behold, this is Mother Eve, who is with the words. She is the spokesperson. She is the one who says, let there be light. And as I say, she is the one who is the overall goddess, who says, let there be light, let there be a firmament, let there be the waters, let there be lights, or let the earth bring forth fruits after its kind. And she goes on till she gets to the let us make man, where things kind of change. It's on the 8th one, the 8th entry of her words. This is all chronologically stated, not in an obscured way, we could say, in Genesis. So you can't really see it in order when we say chronologically, but I'm just giving it to you is in the order of the entries that they came in. So we have to have a certain sight to be able to spot that. When we spot it, we will find a gem. There is a gem so delicious in there, but I am not wanting to chew and swallow for people. I am giving you the references to go in, and you can see that all this let and begin to unravel and open our eyes, because for me to really give so much more right now may be a little bit too much, like stuffing our mouths with too much food and finding the struggle to chew and swallow accordingly. And then of course it takes away the flavor or the deliciousness, because we are so occupied with trying to maintain the food in our mouth, which we may have to spit some out and so on. So just so back to the template is that, oh, I better check the time on here. To the template is that this is the template that was derived from the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. So we have looked at how Mother Eve has become one, or seen one with Christ. It's one and the same. The messages are really one and the same, and that there is a thread that carries through in the book of Genesis that also coincides pretty much with the story of Christ. The sac hair, SAC, is one dimension. These are the three sections. Sac, reef, this is RIF, this is one section here, and we have another section here. Now I like to use this template and call waters into the waters, or water into motion. When I say motion, of course, once I did this at the first time and I ended up feeling very emotional, so I want balance in this one. And revelation, of course, I will right, fill in this. Let's do this now. No time like the present. ON. So this is revelation. Revelation equals 13, and 13 has a lot to offer us, because we all would hear about 13, but we see 13 here represents the B, that is the bond in the sacrifice. So the sac is always where people are making agreements. This is where people are forming bonds. This is where people are building. This is where people are whatever the bees, the breast, the buttocks, the beehive. Of course, this is where that kind of business, basically just call it the business. This is like the mother who is feeding a young one, because that's her business to nurture and nourish her baby. That is her business to ensure he is clothed, he is fed, he is washed, he is asleep. That is her business, and that's what happens in the sack right here. 1 to 6 is 1 to 3 is actually 6. This is where Mother Eve says, behold, I have given you all fruit bearing tree after its kind. So meaning the fruits are able to bear a tree because it has seeds in it. And of course, when we have a tree, you can imagine a mango, you plant it, and year after year would give you will give you several mangoes in season after its kind. So that's what happens here. And this is the section where people use or have cleverly manipulated this section to really control, to have industries successful. And it's not always meaning that it's in a bad way, but that is the place where the business is. Of course, they do learn how to develop their skills in this section of 4, because to be successful at your business, you need to have a strong awareness of your north, south, east, and west. And that's what happens with that 4. Basically, you need to know how your head thinks, your hands operate, and where you are standing at any given moment. That is the crux here. Of course, when you know that, you can begin to make new decisions, enter in new dimensions where you can now make a self-evaluation that you are being clever as a fox, or that can also reflect in other areas that you are required to be a fox, because being a fox is that you are birthing a degree of newness. You are birthing the attributes of what you are. To birth is to see yourself. It's like a mother has given birth to her child. The child become an extension of herself, another aspect of herself. As much as she is nurturing this child, this baby, it's like she can feel in the middle of the night when he's hungry, or when he needs turning, or when he needs bathing, and the emotion when he's happy, when he's sad. So this is what number 9 is representing right here. That's what it was about the 9th hour with Christ dying on the cross. I think it was the 9th hour, but there's a lot of 9 about Christ on the cross. With Christ on the cross, at with 9 is there, Christ was birthing a new perspective, a new way of thinking. This is where he says, I go to prepare a place for you, that where I am, there you may be also. I believe that's where it was said. If it wasn't said there, it is quite still appropriate in that sense, that there was a demarcation of a new era, a new way of thinking, a new way of being was being planted then. Okay, and on this other section of the 7th, which would coincide of the 7th day of rest, but the rest, we must know that it's the rest from the work that God had made. Now, when I say about the 9 gods, let me just say the work that God had made. There was a God who made, and there was a God who created. There was a God who formed, the God who planted, and the God who caused. Those gods were the gods, I believe I have said in order, were the gods of Genesis of chapter 2. Then we had the gods of chapter 1 would be the God of light, or the said God rather, is the said God who said, let there be light. And we have the God of, let's just see if I can get this. Let's get these references for you. But there were the different gods. Genesis of chapter 1. Okay, I haven't got this with me now, but they were the okay. So it's really the God who created. So the God who created, of course, this is where another aspect of the God who created was really like the God of reaction, we could say. It's the God of created. He created 4 type of species that were within us. He created in his own, meaning the word own in itself is telling how there was like a genocide or a war or something had happened, and we became the result of that. But it was where Mother Eve had let business is like it was the she was letting or listening to other gods, part of that which had to be created. We see it is like perhaps in the Caribbean where a hurricane, or it could be in America where a disaster is formed, and there is a head person who now is responsible to saying to the mayor of the place, okay, this is what we are going to do, and there's someone else who is saying, all right, well, this is what we have, a dome over there, we have the health center over there, and we have all those things, and people are being allocated to these different things. This is usually in the case where people are being forming their godship, if you like. And here, of course, this is where people want to shine, and there is sort of competition. There people want to outdo each other in some cases. They have different agendas. This is where someone would think that they want their name to be known, that they were the God who created that new place, and so they would put their name on it and say that I own this place. There is a sort of ownership is happening there. These are the seeds that were planted within us. We are the result of all those attributes. Of course, there are those who like would work just for the sake of love from their heart. We have those as well. And so this is why we have the chatterbox in our minds, and always having to make decisions that we need to be mindful of which direction that, or with which intention we are making those decisions. So this is really to give you an overall, it's not quite overall, but to give you a flavor of what is happening on this channel. We are looking at how to deconstruct that which no longer serves us, but also when we do find out the mathematical structures or mathematical sum or summaries that are in the King James Bible, we will find that the answers become very clear of which action is that we should be taking. Just like in the let entries, we know now that we are coming to this 8th cycle of the let. We have gone through these, and of course there are still ripple effects of those things happening, but this is where we see in our world today, the let us make man has now taken shape, where scientists or the AI people have now taken on that 8th entry and have now introduced Sophia, the AI robot. So that is giving a flavor of where we ought to be heading. So we can see, and I'm hoping you can see, that what I have been saying have its base and structure in the King James Bible in a mathematical way. So just to check on the time and just give you this quickly. So I know the template, you can check out my templates to numerology as well. So this is where we do our jazz. The bonding happens here. We are lucky here. We develop here. We go into new dimensions here. And of course, we become as clever as a fox. We are given the opportunity to do that. We go into a gypsy journey, which is number 7. That's where God made rested from his work, but he was walking around, maybe checking what he had done. And then there's headquarters zone. Of course, this is where things are taken into account, things are set. This is where you say everything it's just perfect. And of course, there was a part where it spoke about the 8th day as well. That is like the new cycle of where everything is set, because the word set also equals 8, and the word 8, the word God, the name God for God equals 8. And of course, there's the inland revenue. The inland revenue, of course, which is is going back to the serpent, we could say, in this sense. Going back to Mother Eve, the head of all clever creatures that we are told, on one hand, to seek wisdom, and we were told that she is the wisest, the serpent is the wisest, but we were conditioned, however, over time to be fearful through the scriptures of the serpent. So we have been fearful, whereas when we learn the way of the serpent, we can see how she can be even hypnotize. She can even hypnotize because she likes her rest as well, as much as she becomes rigid at times. Okay, so I leave you with this, and well, there's something else I think I need to say. Well, let's say in the words of Mother Eve, let there be light, and there was light. So I'm hoping that's what it's going to be like for you when you watch this presentation. Thank you. And if you like this presentation, click and like, of course, click like and share, because this is how we grow, is by sharing. That's what Mother Eve did with us, sharing and so on. By the way, I did mention about four species of people in chapter 1 But there were also that there were the two, which was the man and the woman. They were the original from whatever era that had come into being. So we are the makeup of six species of being within us. Hence it is said, six is the number of man. Six is the number of man. This is just so close that we almost miss it. Six is the number of man. It's the number, literally six kind of man within us. Thank you for watching. Hope you like this, and do leave your comments, likes, and subscribe. Spill over with love.